Hello, welcome to the Artist Spotlight for Kingdom Inspiration News. So, today I have the privilege of having on this young man, Rodney Iler. I had to make sure I got it right.
Absolutely.
And phenomenal young man. I found out about him a couple of months back through the Stellar Awards. But I'm not going to give you too much information. I'm going to let him share the story, the journey, and a wonderful and powerful testimony to how your words have power. What you say and what you speak and what you believe definitely has power in your life. So, welcome to the show, Rodney.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. This Kingdom Inspiration News is definitely a platform that is necessary. As you guys may know from watching the show, she mentioned to me that this is an opportunity to spotlight independent artists. So thank you for this platform because it is definitely something that is needed for us as independent artists in this season.
Well, it is my pleasure and absolute joy to be able to do it. Like I was explaining to you, because I've been behind the scenes, for many years, I've had the opportunity to see so many independent gospel artists who are like amazing. The talent out there is unbelievable. Unfortunately, most people don't get to see them, hear about them, experience them because they're independent gospel artists. So they tend to stay within their local area, and within their local area, everyone knows them and loves them. But this show does go literally globally. So my goal is that people will start to see these different artists, start listening to your music, start purchasing your music, start booking you to go all over the world to share your gifts and your talents. So, Rodney, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. What should I say? I am 18 years old. I am a 2022 high school graduate. So shout out to all the 2022 graduates out there. I have decided that, well, I won't even say, let me back that up because it wasn't my decision. It definitely took a lot of prayer and seeking God. So God has given me this season to not go to college right now, but instead just to perfect and to build on the gifts and the foundation that He's already laid upon me for my ministry and my business that I own. So that's another fact about me. I am an entrepreneur. Oh, I've been running businesses since I was 12 years old. So about 6 years, I've just been doing whatever. But I have finally found my passion in graphic design. So I have an LLC that I've owned with that for about 3 years now. And I do graphic design, video designs, website designs, you name it, content creation is all that I do. Every single day of my life. That's what I'm doing and building out my music ministry. So that's a little bit about me. When I'm not doing ministry, I would say ministry or work, but really all that I do is ministry. My
Yeah.
business is a ministry in and of itself. Just because it's graphic design, I don't treat it like a business. I treat it as ministry. Because I am creating a physical representation or a digital representation rather of God's vision for other people. So it's definitely a ministry. I consider it. But when I'm not doing ministry, I love to cook. I love reality TV shows a whole lot. Like it is my desire to have me and my family on a reality TV show because I love it that much. What else do I love to do? Cooking.
Well, before you go any further, see, I knew you were a graphic designer, and I know you did the content creation and that kind of stuff, but I didn't know that. Well, first of all, well, you might not know, but I'm an entrepreneur. I have owned several businesses, been involved with business for like the last about 15 years, right?
Um,
So I am passionate about entrepreneurship, right? I'm even more excited about the fact that you started business at the age of 15.
yes, ma'am.
That's right there. Let's just talk about that for a second. So you were 15 years old. What made you think about starting a business or going into business at 15? And what was the business?
So I officially got my LLC at 15, but I started businesses at actually 12.
Wow.
And it's so funny. It's so laughable now looking back at it. But I remember it was June 2016. I was just sitting at home during the summer and didn't have anything to do. And at that time, I had just been recently appointed as the student council historian at my school. And so that was my first leadership position at school. And so I was like, I should take this leadership thing a little bit further. And so I literally sat at home. I went on Vistaprint and I created a business card, a logo, and all those things. And I mean, I was just doing anything. Like, it's so laughable at this point, but I was cutting people's grass. I was cleaning people's houses. I was trying to call myself a math tutor. And people were actually doing these things. Now, was I good at it? Probably not. But they saw the work ethic and they saw that I was really passionate and serious about what I was doing. I mean, like I said, I had business cards. I made apparel out of my logos. I made banners. So like I'm 12 years old doing all these random things, but the heart and the ethics were behind it. And so I think that's what made people support it. And I think it's still how people are supporting me to this day, just having the great work ethic. But yeah, it just came up randomly. And then eventually I started learning from different things, finding out my passion and my true calling, and just shaped my business around that and made it something great.
I mean, that's a great attribute to have, you know, especially to be so young. It's unfortunate, but you know, I can't really say that a lot of younger, especially 18-year-olds, have a great work ethic. That's not often the case. And you're saying that you've been doing this since 12. So to what do you attribute that to? Was it, you know, your family upbringing? Was it a specific family member? You know, was your grandmother the one that said, Rodney, like, where did that come from?
I've always been a very independent person. I've always been one. My mom tells me even now that I've always been a leader. I've always been one to not want to do what everybody else is doing, but in fact, the exact opposite of what everybody else wants to do. So I think it's just a natural calling that God has placed on me since I was born, that I'm just a leader. I just always wanted stuff for my own. I've never been interested in working for anybody. That was always something that really terrified me, because I'm like, I want to build my own thing. I want to do my own thing. I want to be on my own time, build my own schedule, make my own money, not be waiting on anybody else to send me my check. Like I've thought about those things since I was a young kid. And then I've always also I had a really great thought, and I need the Lord to bring it right back to me. What was I about to say? Oh, I've always thought about my future. That's what I was getting to. I'm always thinking about my future. I'm always thinking ahead, like the decisions that I make right now. And I try to even encourage my friends and peers that are around my age to do the same thing. Like the decisions that you make right now, think about how they'll affect your future. And so I want to be building something really great and really grand, putting all of my work ethics and all my time into building something great through ministry right now, so that once I'm older, I'm financially set. I don't have to worry about trying to do this artist thing so I can have money. It's not about money. It's about God and saving souls. So if I'm doing the groundwork right now, once I'm older and the finances are set, I'm not trying to worry about making money. I can really focus on bringing people to Christ through what I do. Not having to charge a whole lot for graphic design, because the graphic design industry is extremely expensive when you need great quality work, which is one of the many reasons why I ended up doing graphic design. Because as an artist, you need content to post. You need content to promote your music and album covers and things, but that can get really expensive. So that's one of the reasons why I started in graphic design. But just creating that foundation for myself so that once my business and my ministry grows, once I'm older. I can focus on the heart and the purpose of the business and not focus on money being an issue.
That's a lot of insight for somebody so young. It makes me think about, I had this quote on my wall at work for years, and I think it came from Denzel Washington, and it was really simple. Do what you need to do now so you can do what you want to do later.
Later, yep.
And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like, you're going to put in the work now so that later you can breathe a little, so you can relax a little. Yes. Oh my gosh. You're an amazing young man.
Do it while you're young. My body is still very young. I can move a lot. I got a lot of energy. I get tired. It takes a whole lot to get me tired. Like I got the energy. The pulse rate is going right now. So while it's still moving and strong, use it up so that once you get a little bit older, because I've heard from some elders of mine that you don't keep this young body for too long. So
no,
while it lasts.
You better. You absolutely better, for as long as you can, and make sure you take care of it. So let's talk about your music ministry a little bit. So you went into business at the age of 12. Are you going to tell me you started singing at 5?
When I could start talking, I remember as soon as I could stand up and start talking, I was in church leading songs. My home church, well, the church I grew up in, one of them is Show Creek Baptist Church in Locust Grove, Georgia. I never forget. I sung my first song, Oh, How I Love Jesus. So, I've been singing since I was about 3 or 4 years old. Just whatever song I could sing or whatever I could pronounce, I was singing it.
I knew you were going to tell me that. I said, he's going to tell me that he's been singing for a long time. So, obviously, you have this gift to sing, this talent to sing, this passion to sing. You said since 3, so you obviously grew up in church. So many young people, though, when it comes to having that gift, they decide, do I want to stay within the gospel arena, or do I want to go into the secular arena? Like, what do I want to do with this gift? You're only 18, so you're still so young. So you might change your mind. But what has kept you within the gospel arena?
I'll say 2 things. One, I absolutely still believe in doing both, the gospel and the secular, just as long as there's inspiration between the two. I think a lot of times when people think about secular music, they think it has to just be destructive and it has to be with sexual desires and dying and thug this and gang this and all of it, just so many different things of the world. And it doesn't have to be that. You can create music that's inspirational, that's not necessarily Christian. So I believe in that. Fantasia is somebody that I absolutely love for that. And I actually have I am working towards becoming the male version of that from Fantasia, because I've looked up to her in that aspect since I was a little boy. So I do believe in both, but just in a respectful manner that still honors God in what you do. But one thing that has kept me in gospel in this season of my life right now it's just because I grew up in church. I know, I understand that the only reason I'm able to avoid certain situations and stay out of certain arenas and create boundaries that are respectful towards myself and God is staying rooted in his house, staying rooted in his word and the foundation that has been laid in my family for me, which is in church. So I think that has been a major thing in my life. Also, the things that I've been through, I know people say a lot that young people don't go through anything and y'all ain't got nothing to talk about. But especially in this time of COVID, where we were locked up for 2.5 years, still ongoing, some things you can't do at a normal pace or rate anymore. There are definitely some things I've been through. I've lost a lot of family members. I've lost a lot of friends, whether that be deaths, whether that be just relationships that have ended. I've been through depression. I mean, whatever you can name it. And I'm sure I've been through it. Anxiety. just so many different things. And it's literally the word of God. It's my worship in Sunday services. It's my posture towards him that has been able to keep me grounded and not fall into things deeper into things like depression and anxiety. No suicidal thoughts have ever come through my mind. It's because I have the word of God and I've hid it in my heart. So I believe that that's one of the reasons, or some of the reasons rather, why I chose to do gospel music in this season, and to also encourage other young people to do the same thing. That it doesn't have to be the most popular thing in the world to be connected to God and to follow his heart and his will, but it is a right thing to do, and it is a popular thing to do. It is still something that you can pursue after. So my main thing is to save souls and to encourage other young people to do the same thing.
So good, so good. I'm loving this interview. So you start singing basically as soon as you can start speaking, you're already singing. So at some point you decide, okay, I'm going to take this a little more seriously, and you decide to put together an album. How did that come about, and when did that start?
I think my whole entire life is just leaps of faith. And I'm starting to notice that I've never thought about this, but as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing a lot of what I do for God is just taking a leap of faith. I left my home church when I was about 13, and I went to a church called the Dream Center Church of Atlanta. And I know you're probably like, how you just leave your church and your family is, you can't drive none of that. My mom, she knew that there was a calling on my life. She knows that I sense God in a different way than the rest of my family. And so when I felt the urge to leave my church, I didn't know what I was leaving for, but I knew exactly where I needed to be. And so after having that conversation with my mom, she would go back and forth with taking me to my church while she would go to hers, because she just knew, like, if I was leaving that church, there was something God had for me that was there. And so my time at the Dream Center, I was able to connect with so many amazing gifts. One of them being the worship leaders there, Nigel Lassiter, who has been a part of Vincent Bohannon's album as a feature, Brianna Lawrence, who is a background vocalist and featured on one of her projects for Tasha Cobbs Leonard, the piano player, plays for plenty of artists around the world. So I was able to connect with even Bishop William Murphy, and he's now a spiritual father of mine. So I was able to connect with so many different people that do what it is that I knew God had called me to do. And so while being in that space, you start doing, people tell me all the time, the company you keep around you, eventually you'll start acting like, you'll start being like them. And so I was hanging around all these artists. I was hanging around all these worship leaders. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to take this leap of faith, and I'm going to become a worship leader. I'm going to become an artist in this season. So literally nobody knew my name at all. I put out a graphic that I made myself, and I said, hey, on this date, I'm having a live recording. I didn't have any details together. I didn't have any people confirmed. I didn't have a venue. I didn't have nothing, but I knew I wanted to record this album. I had the songs ready, and I added a few eventually, and then I planned out the rest of it on faith. I'm like, God, you gave me this date. It didn't randomly just show up. You gave me this date, so I know you're going to stand firm on your word and bring it to pass. And surely that's what he did. January 9th of 2020, I recorded my album live in concert. This was my first time ever singing by myself in that capacity. This was my first time really having control over the atmosphere in the room. And it was an experience for me. So much of an experience that because I was 14 or I think I was 15 turning 16 at that time, and I knew nothing about the music industry, nothing about recording. Some things went wrong with that recording, and so we ended up dropping the whole record, trashing it completely. And I was like, all right, God,
just so you know, that happens with more seasoned artists too, because I've been in that situation. So it's not just you being new. I mean, it happens. It probably happens a lot more than people want it to. But yeah, that definitely does happen. So you're like, oh my gosh, I was hyped. It was awesome. And now you can't use it. So what do you do?
So in a typical case, you would think that was discouraging. But for me, it was encouragement to do it bigger and better. I had went through the process. That was my time to figure it all out. Didn't know what I was doing beforehand, but now I'm in this thing. I mean, we've went through the live recording, we've done overdubs in the studio, we've done all these different things. So I've been able to see every single aspect of this spectrum and see what exactly it takes to build this thing out. Throughout that next year, so that was 2020, January 2020. For the rest of 2020, I went and studied the entire year, going back and watching people's live recordings. The people that ended up having a few virtual concerts, I was able to step into the room and just see how the production went and how they handled it and how they brought it together, brought it to life and things like that. And then I told my mom, I was like, look, I feel the urge to re-record. I know what I did wrong the last time. I got the steps I need. I've got the things that went wrong so that I know what to fix for this go round. It's going to be amazing this time. And surely that is what God did. On January 11th, 2021, I was able to do another live recording with 2 additional songs from the first one, an entirely new band. My MD is one of Tasha Cobb's drummers. And then my background vocalists were all of Tasha Cobb's background vocalists. I was able to do music videos for 2 of the songs, professional videographers throughout the entire concert. This time we had video walls and LED lights that created light shows, and the production team, I had a full production team with this concert, and it was COVID time still, so I only had about 25 to 30 people in the room spread out, but I had over 3,000 views on Facebook Live watching the concert as we recorded this new project. And then it was finally able to come out. And within the first year of being out, this being my first project, not being a worship leader prior to this, not having any experience before this, no names attached to me or anything, my album was nominated for a Stellar Award in the 2022 Stellar Awards Showcase. First time putting the album out, first time artist, and this is what God did. So he was building the testimony out of the test of that first recording so that he could build something bigger, better, and stronger through this project. So it's touched over 13,000 lives to this day.
I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wow, this young man again is just absolutely amazing. Your faith, your work ethic, just, you know, I could just see that you have such a love for God. It's such an honor. It's amazing again that you're 18, and I know that there's going to be so much more for you. Because again, you have what it takes. You definitely have what it takes. And I'm not just talking about the talent. I'm talking about the right heart, you know, the right work ethic. And so that's going to just take you so far. I know it's probably not a lot of younger folk that, you know, necessarily watch this. But this is what I will say. I don't care how old you are, you have to realize how amazing this young man's testimony is. It's the testimony of faith that no matter what it looks like, no matter whether or not it went wrong, how wrong it went, how bad it looks, if God has given me this thing, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to get it done. And so I thank you so much for coming on. Before we end, first, I want you to share how people can connect with you. I do have your website scrolling at the bottom. I know you're on social media, so how can people connect with you on social media?
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram or friend me on Facebook at Rodney Iler. That's RODNEYILER, as you see it scrolling through the screen. My website is also scrolling, www.rodneyilerministries.com. There you can find all of my music booking information. You can find the link to my music, find out a little bit more about me in detail. I think we covered a whole lot of it, but further details about me are on my site, along with my graphic design portfolio and booking form as well, are on my website and in the link of my Instagram. So you can follow me on those platforms. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Rodney Iler Music. So as I mentioned before, we were able to have professional videographers at my live recording. So I do have 2 official Vivo music videos out on my YouTube channel right now that are available for you all to watch, along with some other live covers from me as a worship leader that you can see on that YouTube channel as well. So that's how you can connect it.
We're going to give them an opportunity to get a little bit of it before they even go to YouTube. We're going to play a little bit for them so they can hear a little bit of your work. Before we end, 60 seconds, offer a word of encouragement to somebody that might be listening.
Absolutely. I love to tell people to stay rooted in what God has called you to do. I think I am a perfect testament of what that does for you, because like she said earlier, I am a faith guy. So keep your faith strong. Whatever the Lord has promised you, whatever he has put in your heart, he is going to fulfill it. All you need is faith the size of a mustard seed. That's all it takes. Just a little bit of faith, believing in the word of God. Trust and stand on that. Let that be the foundation in which you build your life upon. As you go throughout your day, as you go throughout your week, the rest of this year, just be thinking about everything that God has promised you, and know that everything you are going through in this season, everything that is happening in your life right now, is all a test for a greater testimony and outcome that is going to come in your life. So be encouraged to keep going.
Thank you so much again for coming on. Thank you for those words of encouragement. And again, I just wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to seeing y'all soon.
God, hear my secrets, where they are deepest. Strengthen my weakness. Oh my God, hear my secrets. Oh Lord, walk with me while I'm on life's journey. You see, I'm trying to make it through this season because I know God has a reason. But sometimes I just feel like I wanna quit. God, hear my God, hear my secrets. And oh God, hear my heart's cry. Oh, oh God, I have these pieces of me. They're scattered and broken apart. I'm trying to figure it out. God, where should I start. You see, I'm trying to make it through this season because I know God has a reason. But sometimes I just feel like I wanna quit. God, here's the deep place in my heart, Father God, because I wanna do what you have for me to do, but I'm broken on the inside, God. God, mend the broken pieces of my heart, God, and fill in the puzzle pieces, Lord, hear my oh. Why? I am never looking back. I am moving forward, yeah, yeah. I am never looking back. I'm moving forward. I'm never looking back.
I am never looking back.
I'm moving forward.
I am moving
I will
forward.
be who God called me to be, yes, I will.
I am never
And I'm never, 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 never go back.
moving forward.
Because I'm moving forward.
I am moving
I
forward.
said I'm moving forward.
I am moving
Whatever you have for me, God, I'm ready and I'm open.
I am moving forward.
Cause I'm moving
I
forward.
am moving forward.
Said I'm moving forward. I'm moving forward. And nothing will ever be able to stop me. Nothing that the enemy tries to work. No, it won't work. Oh no, it won't work. Can y'all say that?
It won't work.
I've tried God for myself, and I know that the enemy can't win. I know that the enemy can't win. I know that it won't work. The enemy will lose again. The enemy will lose again. And I've got victory, yeah. I've got victory, yeah. Oh.
Welcome to Kingdom Inspiration News. I am your host, Gwen Tillery, and once again, I thank you for tuning in with us this morning. So I have the pleasure this week of having on the wonderful and fabulous Miss Kim Jacobs, also known as the Balance Doctor. So we're going to have a great conversation about life and finding balance, and what was it in her life that she felt the need to really start to study and figure out how to bring about balance in your life. I know for me as a mom and a talk show host and a business owner and ministry leader, it's really important to find balance. So I'm really excited to have her on so we can talk about this topic. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Minister Gwen. I appreciate it. Glad to be here today.
Glad to have you. So, as I said, Kim is wonderful. She does some amazing things. She has a talk show. She's an author. She's a mom. You know, she just does a lot. So tell us just a little bit about yourself to begin with.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'm always in the seat that you're in. So I'm usually asking the questions, right? So whenever someone asks me the question, I'm like, hey, these are great questions. So now I get to see how it feels to be over here being interviewed. When I think about just my life overall, Gwen, I'm actually a child of God, and it's my honor, my privilege to serve God's people in whatever capacity that He wants to use me as a willing vessel. So really, in all of the different hats, roles, responsibilities, and there are plenty, I'm honored that he would even choose me to be able to help somebody else on this journey called life. So I mean, I can give you a lot of details. You tell me what direction you want me to go in, but it's my honor and my privilege to be able to serve other people, especially women that may have circumstances and situations. And we're like, this is a lot happening. Some stuff you never envisioned could possibly be a part of your story. My story is a reality. And when that kind of stuff happens, you're like, okay, I need to be able to figure out how to pick up the pieces of life and still be able to some kind of way move forward without letting it take me under. I know that didn't give
Yeah,
you who I am, but that's in a nutshell.
that's good. And I guess that's why we connected so easily because I too just have a passion for helping women and help them, get back on track and figure out who they are. In fact, I put out a post this week that said something similar to what you just said. There's so much joy and so much peace that comes with knowing that you're walking in the plan and purpose that God has for you. It's like a joy and just like you just smile about it because it brings, and that doesn't mean that things are perfect and we're going to get to
Right.
that. It
Right.
doesn't mean that you have some issues, but there's a peace and a joy that comes with that. So you are absolutely right about that. So the balance doctor, how did that come about? Like, how does one become the balance doctor?
Well, I was wearing, first of all, doing so many things that maybe from an outside perspective looked like it could be very overwhelming and too much for one person to per se handle. But I'm just of the theory that God will not put more on us than we can bear. And so, for whatever reason, if some of the things are happening in my life, God already knew it was going to happen, especially when we're talking about kingdom inspiration. God already knew the plans that He had for my life and that He knows from the foundation of the earth what He wants to occur throughout my journey called life. So if it's for some reason on me, then that means I can handle it. So being a mother, being a daughter, and being a friend, being a business owner, being a founder of a nonprofit organization, people were asking me so many different types of advice. They're like, Kim, how do you do this? How do you manage this? How do you do this? From a spiritual perspective, all kinds of hats that I was wearing. And one of my girlfriends, her name is Sean, we met for just a brainstorming session one day. And she was like, Kim, you know what? You do so many things, and people really do seek advice from you a lot. I know that there is a medical doctor, there's a PhD, but there's no BD. I was like, well, what in the world is a BD? Balance doctor. So I'm the BD. If you want to have like Kim Jacobs, how people have, oh, I do have an MBA and all of that stuff too, but comma BD is what I really the balance doctor. And it's my honor and privilege to wear all of these different hats because I believe God will not put more on me than I can bear.
So, like I said, so many people struggle with balance. We have so many things going on in our lives. So, in terms of being able to try to find that balance in your life, what are some of the key factors that need to be considered?
That my philosophy when I was younger, Minister Gwen, has now changed now that I'm 50 in my 50s. I'm 52, right? So the philosophies are very different depending upon when you would have asked me that question. Back in my 20s, what I would say is definitely managing your time, having a master calendar, and being able to pull all of the different components in your schedule into one place so that you're not forgetting something like an interview like today or other things that you may have going on with your children or their sporting events or activities. But then also being able to prioritize and say, what are some of the must do's? This is something that must get done that day. And no matter how you slice it, I have to accomplish it. So there are some things that have higher priority than others when it comes to balancing our lives. And then there are some things when you're like dealing with a lot of children. For me, one example is managing their dental appointments, managing their doctor appointments. Even though that's simple, I schedule all of my children's appointments on the same day at back to back so that I don't have to make multiple trips. So it's some basic things that I've done over the years to manage my time and to prioritize and to figure out how not to waste time. I assess what I have going on for a given week. Where am I wasting my time? and then get rid of some of those time wasters so that I can have more time for what's needed. So anyway, those are a few things that I do that helps me manage my time in especially my younger years when I was balancing all of these schedules. Who do I need to ask for help because I'm one person and I can't get to all of these places at one time? Now my philosophy is I want to always balance life according to God's will and his purpose for my life, Minister Gwen. So what is it that God wants me to do? And even though it may look like I'm out of balance or out of sync, I'm not. I'm in God's will because I'm following his plan for my life and my life's assignments. So kind of different views.
Yeah, that's good. So you say following that, I said there's nothing like, knowing that you're in the will and, you're doing what God has called you to do. I find a lot of women, a lot of people in general, but I feel like women tend to struggle with that a little bit more because we have so many different roles and responsibilities, particularly when it comes to parenting, being a mother. And then, if we're a wife, the responsibility of being a wife. And I feel like a lot of women may get caught up in the fact that they feel like, okay, well, you know what, I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and, that's my purpose. And so I don't have time for anything else. Do you have any feedback on that? Any advice on that? What would you say?
Yeah, my advice is actually I started a Mother Dreamer movement, and I didn't even tell you this, but the reason is because I want mothers that are women, and some people that may be associated with the Mother Dreamer movement aren't mothers physically, but they are mothers and aunties and stuff to other children in life. So they're serving in a mother role or some type of sponsor of a young child role. So it still makes them some type of mother figure. And I tell people, listen, it doesn't have to be an either or situation. It can be an and. So what are your goals? What are your dreams that are nagging down on the inside of you? And you can't wait for everybody to be grown and gone before you can have those dreams start to manifest and become a reality. And so I think that it doesn't have to be, I have to wait until all of my children are grown and gone before anything that God put inside of me can ever become a reality. So that's my theory.
Well, good. I like your theory. I think that's important to put out there as well because, there's seasons. God operates in season and in time. And so, you're waiting 20 years. You have a couple of kids, you're waiting 25 years to give birth to this thing that 25 years down the road might not even be that relevant. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah,
I don't judge anybody that says my priority is to stay home and work with my children, because God has that as a priority too if he's assigned children to you, and that's a ministry. So to me, it's not an either or. It's like he can put with what he needs to put inside of you to be able to do everything he's equipped you to do and to do it effectively. So.
Exactly. So I think where I was going with that is, don't feel guilt if you're feeling led to do something other than, the parenting. Because, that in and of itself is a lot. That is a ministry. There is a huge responsibility. But you know what? Just because you have that responsibility doesn't mean that there's not something else that you can be called to or drawn to do. That's so true. You mentioned children. So how many children do you have? You said you make all the appointments back to back. How many children and what are their ages?
So I have 5 children, and the ages now I'm a parent of adult children too at this point. So my oldest is 25 and his name is Frank Jr. And he's actually a student at UNC Chapel Hill his senior year. He had taken a sabbatical for about a year and a half to do some business ventures, but now he's back and finishing out there. And then I have Ivan, he's 21, and Ivan actually lost 100 pounds and went on this weight loss journey. He was a 300 some pound, now he's down to like 190 or something. Anyway, he's a whole fitness trainer and teaching people about meal prep and all kinds of things online virtually to help people with weight loss. And he's a student at UNC Charlotte. And then I have Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is my 17-year-old. He's a lifeguard and actor. Speaking of which, like somebody told me they saw us on the Lowe's website and they were like, Kim, is this you and your son? I said, girl, my son is in the acting streets, right? So I'm everywhere. I done played a zombie and an acting thing. That's how I merge my family. I actually go and volunteer and participate in things that's important to them so that we still be able to bond as a family. These are all balance tips as I'm telling you this stuff. So I hope y'all getting
Nice.
it. I don't just send him off to act. I go and audition and be in the acting scenes with him. So we're on Lowe's homepage somewhere on one of those pages.
I
So he's
love
an
it.
actor and a lifeguard. And then I have Jayla is my 12-year-old, my 14-year-old, and she is a student in a charter school. She works at Chick-fil-A, and she also does gardening and animation. So my fifth child is 12 forever, and you often see me. I know you know about the pen, but maybe others don't. But his name is Gabriel Michael Jacobs, and he transitioned from this earth to go to heaven. And we did not know it was going to happen. It was a
Mm.
total shocker. And so I tell everybody to get an ultrasound of your child's heart because he
Mhm.
had a heart defect, which caused sudden cardiac arrest. And we just didn't even know it even existed. So,
Wow.
yeah. So those are my 5 kids.
Whew, so yeah, that's a lot.
Mm,
And the fact that you find the time to be able to connect with each one of them with all that you do.
yes.
So that's the mother side of you. There's the balance side of you. You're also a talk show host.
Yes.
So
That's another hat.
tell us about the talk show.
Yes, Minister Gwen. Well, you've been a guest on the talk show, so hopefully Minister Gwen will put in the actual comment sections at some point the episode that she aired on the Kim Jacobs Show, and truly a pleasure getting to know her as well. So you all have a wonderful jewel here on Kingdom Inspiration News by having Minister Gwen as your host. So never take for
Thank you.
granted the beautiful blessings that God put in your path, and she's one of them. I know I'm doing my own commercial about you. You're like, girl, I ain't call you on here for that.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, the show is called The Kim Jacobs Show, and I invite guests on Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time for people to share their backstories, some things that maybe they've had to overcome, ways that they balance their lives to become who they are today. And so I get a chance to connect with a lot of women and men. Actually, quite a few men tune into the Kim Jacobs Show too, to just learn how people are really beating some odds and overcoming some things and managing and juggling this thing called life to be able to help those on our journey called life. I'm excited about it.
How long have you been doing the show?
I've been a talk show host. It's interesting you asked that because I just met with my team and we're talking about the kickoff of 15 years come 2023. So I was like, we got to do something big. It's got to come out.
Yeah.
Break it loose. So I've actually filmed at the old Praise the Lord studio for a while at Jim and Tammy Faye Baker studio. I've also had my show on on PBS. It was called Daily Balance with Kim Jacobs back then, and the Word Network. Let me think about NBC. I've been a balance expert on NBC where Coca-Cola would sponsor and send me out to do balance makeovers in homes. And you know how people say, yeah, and I wrote a book on it. I really did. I literally did write a book from all of the NBC episodes that they brought me on. I just printed them all and put them in this book as tips on extreme balance makeover for viewers and readers. I've been doing it for almost 15 years. Coming up on 15 years.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I knew that you had been doing it for a while, but I didn't realize it's been 15 years. So, wow, congratulations on almost 15 years. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, you wrote the book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, in this book, Extreme Balance Makeover, I share a lot of tips on how you can have better solutions and a better focus so that you can ultimately have a better outcome in your life. And so I'll talk about things like how to celebrate yourself, how to make sure that if you're struggling to find out what gifts and talents God really wants you to use on this earth, how do you identify that? So I do a thing that's like, I talk to 3 of your friends and then also decide what you think are 3 great gifts and kind of force rank them based on what the friends also, because they're usually some good barometers. They tell you, hey, this is what you think you're good at, but no, this is what you're great at. And they can help you. Because some people struggle to know what it is that's their purpose on this earth, you know? So I talk about stuff like that and how to identify your scar. What's a situation, cause, action, and result of something that keeps being a scab that get pulled off every time you're going through this journey called life, and it keeps constantly plaguing you. How to deal with drama, how to deal with parent-teen relationships, you name it, it's in there. And people
That's
can
good.
get it at kimjacobsshow.com. That's where the books are housed.
Okay, say that again.
kimjacobsshow.com. I am a collaborating author on 3 books. One is Rise Up, Women Who Lead, Building Legacy. Women of War is the second one. And How I Fight My Battles is the third one. And I have a chapter in those books, as well as the book that I've personally written, Extreme Balance Makeover. And you can get it at kimjacobsshow.com.
That's good. And as you can see, scrolling down at the bottom is the YouTube channel. So you can also go and check out her shows on the YouTube channel. So the show that you do now, first, let me just take a pause and before I ask any questions, say, you are an inspiration to me.
Oh, thank you.
First of all, I didn't know it had been 15 years. So, wow, you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm just in my first year and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be a little exhausting. I'm just being real. You know, it can be. So 15 years, I'm like, wow. But I do this, you know, show once a week. And like I said, I can find it challenging. You bring on guests 5 days a week, different guests, 5 days a week for an hour show. So, like I said, you are an inspiration to me. Just the fact that you, with all that you have going on, you find the balance, you find the time, and then you do it so well. And she's being a little modest. Your show, of course, it's shown on YouTube. It also comes on Facebook every day, and that's at 11
Yes, 11
a.m.
a.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
You can find it on Facebook, and then it goes to YouTube later, correct?
It streams live on all of the platforms at one
Okay.
time. So Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. If people are on LinkedIn, it also streams on ctrmedianetwork.com, and that's in over 350 million households. And we're also signing with Believe in Your Dreams Network as well, and so it'll be streaming there very soon. So it's also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Deezer, Sound, all of those kind of audio downloads as well. There are hundreds of episodes that you could check out there.
So you can find her if you want to, pretty much.
And it's
And
my
there are
honor to serve you.
There are tons of shows out there for you to be able to watch on so many different topics, so many different guests. But the YouTube also streams, if I'm not mistaken, under someone else's platform as well.
No, you know what? Right now we are in contractual mode with some other platforms, so I didn't mention any of those on purpose. But
Okay.
yes, it's a lot of different places that you can catch the Kim Jacobs Show. And when we go back to ask your question of how long I've been doing that, from my home office, the Kim Jacobs Show, I started doing that when the pandemic hit. I was like, I have to still be able to interview people, and it gave me the opportunity to interview people virtually and get to meet you and lots of others globally around the world that have now become a part of the guest lineup for our show. So that happened just when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, you know, so many good things. You know, the pandemic, there were so many negative things, so many bad things, so many losses, but there were so many wins for people as well. You know, people really came out of their shells and, you know, really had to pivot and figure out, you know, what's my now move? What's my next move? And, you know, a lot of people gave birth to some great and wonderful things as a result of the pandemic. And so although we see it, you know, in a negative light, and, it, you know, there was so much negative, so many lives lost, you know, but despite that, there was still some things that were birthed out of it. And so you started the Kim Jacobs Show. And so you had to figure out how to do this thing virtually and bring it to all of these audiences. So now you actually even help other people that might be interested in doing their own show, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that was because it's a learning process. And because I've been doing this for so many years, I was like, you know what? Other people definitely need these services. And it proved to be true. I actually now teach people how to start your own show from scratch. So everything that I could think to pour into you from my years of experience, I poured into you one on one for 1 hour for 6 consecutive weeks. You own your own content. All I'm doing is coaching you to become the show host that you are, whether you're a motivational speaker, author, you may own a business and you're trying to get a brand or connect with your tribe of followers. I help you start your own show from scratch. And you can go to kimjacobsconsulting.com to be able to book that one-on-one session with me. And some people, Minister Gwen, never want to do a show. So like there are a lot of pastors that may be watching this, especially with it being Kingdom Inspiration News. You may be a pastor and you're like, I don't want to have a show, but I sure want to know how to operate my Bible study properly on StreamYard or on one of these platforms. I also offer a training that teaches you how to operate and maneuver all of these buttons and how to make it work so that you have a professional product or service that you're using in whatever platform you're on.
That's good. So you know what? We could go on. There's so many. Like I said, she's amazing. But I thank you for coming on. I always ask my guests before we end to share a tip, a nugget, a word of inspiration to leave the viewing audience with. So what would you like to share?
What I would like to share is that remember that God knows every single season that we're in our lives, whether it looks like it's drought or whether it looks plentiful. Know that He's not going to leave you in a situation that He's not equipped you to handle. So this is just a temporary moment in life. And He has a plan to get you to the other side of your destiny. So I hope that this helps somebody today. And thank you, Minister Gwen, for having me.
It has been my absolute pleasure. Again, you can catch her on her YouTube channel. You can get her on Facebook. Your social media, all of your social media is under Kim Jacobs, correct?
You can get me at anywhere at the Kim Jacobs Show on any platform. You can type in at the Kim Jacobs Show and you will connect with me.
Great. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. You're a blessed woman of God.
Hey y'all, it's Charles Jenkins and you're watching Kingdom News with Gwen Goolsby-Tiller.
One of the things that I talk about is the keys to success. And one of those keys is clarity. Having clarity is key to your success, no matter what it is that you are trying to achieve. So you see, when you have clarity, it lets you know what direction you should go in and what direction you shouldn't go in. It prevents you from getting off track and it prevents you from being distracted. So if you want to achieve success in your life, get clarity and watch what will happen. This is your paradigm shift message brought to you by Gwen Goolsby-Tiller.